The occasion in mind, I began with the ayat from Surah Shura, which is Surah number 42 of the Quran, ayat 23, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands His Prophet by saying, قُلْ, that, O the messengers, say to your people, لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا, for the hard work that I have done in conveying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you. I am not asking for any reward nor any compensation, إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, except for one thing, and that is that you love my family. The ayat goes on to say, وَمَنْ يَقْتَرِفْ حَسَنَةً نَزِدْ لَهُ فِي حُسْنًا, whoever does good deed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases the goodness in it. And here, husna, the good deed, is referring to the love for the family of the Prophet. Inna Allah ghafurun shakur. Allah is all forgiving and He is grateful. On behalf of the Prophet, He is grateful to you for loving His family. Salawat. When we look at the phenomenon of love and hatred, hub and bughz, these are very natural sentiments and feelings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created among human beings. Nobody can deny that. We love certain things, we dislike certain things. We like some people, we dislike the other. And when we look at it, this phenomenon, we have to realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create these sentiments and these feelings so that they may be totally suppressed. No. Like any other desire that we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I have created the desires among you, and your imtihan is to see whether you fulfill it within the limits of the Islamic laws, divine laws or not. Similarly, when it comes to the sentiments of hub and bughz, love and hatred, this is the test and trial that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would like to see how we manifest them. Whether we do it within the right parameters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set down for us, or is the basis of our love and hatred something else? For example, you cannot, when you look at somebody, you cannot just say you love the person because of the looks of the person, or because of the money that he or she has, or because of the status of the person. These are all transitory things which are there today and they will go away tomorrow. And this is where we have to realize that even when we talk about dislike, you cannot say that, I don't like your face and therefore I don't like you. You cannot say, I don't like your color or your language or your tribe, because all these things are basically not the characteristic that one has acquired. This is dimension of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in them. If he is handsome, not because of him, because of Allah. If he is not that handsome, it's not because of him, it's because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you look at the basis of love or hatred, like or dislike, if it is on these flimsy, bases and foundations, this is wrong. And this is where we have to realize that when we talk about love and hatred, hub and bughz, this has to be based on its connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Either directly or indirectly, anything which is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will have hub and love for it. Anything which is going contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, then we will disassociate from that thing or that person. For example, if you look at even this concept of not liking someone, it's not because of, the person. Rather, it is because of the ideas and the character of the individual. You look at the modern history when we talk about Germany during the Second War. You look at the example of Hitler. We cannot say that we dislike him because he was German, or because he was white, or because he was a Christian, or he belonged to the Aryan race as he used to think. If that is the basis of disliking Hitler, then that's wrong. But we can say, rightfully, when we say that we don't like him because he created zulm and injustice to people of other faith and other races and other colors. And so this is where we have to see that when we talk about liking or disliking someone, if it is within the parameters given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there is absolutely nothing negative about it. Sometimes we hear people say, but why should we even dislike anyone? Well, this element of hatred or bughz and disliking is there in the nature. You are not asked to totally suppress it. You are only being tested to see when you express it and manifest that, are you doing it in the parameters of the divine laws or outside it? Salawat pranay akbar. In Islam, the Prophet of Islam has actually anchored this whole concept of love and hatred to himself and by extension to his family. And he wants us, based on the ayat of Quran from Surah Shura, based on the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet says, you have to love me and you have to love my family. And on the other side, anyone, who loves them, we also have to love them. When we talk about tawalla, it is not only loving Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, we also have to love those who love Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Salawat. And if anyone comes in opposition to them, when we talk about Muhammad and Ali Muhammad as that measure and standard, if anyone shows animosity towards them, then we have to automatically distance ourselves, dislike and disassociate ourselves from those who are known to be the enemies of the Prophet and his Ahlul Bayt. When we talk about Muawiyah and Yazid, we are not really talking about them because they were Arabs or Qurayshi or they were white or brown or they had, en masse riches. No. We are looking at their attitudes towards Ali Muhammad. Whether they are going with this ayat of Quran from Surah Shura or they are going against this ayat of Quran from Surah Shura. When we see that they are the enemies of Ali Muhammad, they tried whatever was within their power to basically defame them, to humiliate them, to hurt them, and to kill the family of the Ahlul Bayt. There can be any soft corner for them in our hearts. Because that is very natural phenomenon that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. If the basis of like and dislike, hub and bughz is within the parameter of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what you are doing is not unethical or immoral. It is actually according to the ethics of the divine law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat alayhi. In this tafsir of this ayat from Surah Shura, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders the Prophet to say to his followers that I don't want anything from you in return for the sacrifices and the hard work in conveying Allah's message to you, except for one thing. إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى, except to love my family. This is not only from the Shi'i tafsir. Let me read to you a very extensive passage from Zamakhshari, a very famous Sunni mufassir. His tafsir is known as al-Kashaf. And there under this ayat, he says, وَرُوِيَ أَنَّهَا لَمَّا نَزَلَتْ. When this ayat was revealed, the Prophet was asked to clarify. Whom does he mean when he says, إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى? Who are these qurba? قِيلَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ مَنْ قَرَابَتُكَ هَؤُلَاءِ الَّذِي وَجَبَتْ عَلَيْنَا مُوَدَّتُهُمْ. He was asked that, O the Messenger of Allah, who are these qurba of yours whose love has been made wajib to us? Zamakhshari says, the Prophet responded by saying, this qurba refers to Aliyun wa Fatima wa abnahuma. Ali and Fatima and the two sons of Ali and Fatima. Salawat. And then Zamakhshari goes on to narrate the statement of the Prophet about the importance of loving the Ali Muhammad. And he actually gives a narration of about 7 to 8 versions, which I am not yet sure whether it was one statement that Rasulullah has mentioned in one place, or these are different statements that Rasulullah described the love for Ahlul Bayt in different places. But listen to this. He says, Zamakhshari says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من مات على حب آل محمد مات شهيدا. Whoever dies with the love of Ali Muhammad in his heart, his death is like the death of a shaheed. The reward he gets is that of a shaheed. This is only one statement. Then he says, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد مات مغفورا له. Verily, the one who dies with the love of Ahlul Bayt, he dies like a person who has been forgiven. مغفورا له, he has been forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third statement, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد مات تائبا. Verily, whoever dies on the love of Ahlul Bayt, he dies as a ta'ib. Ta'ib means somebody who has done true tawbah, has repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that Allah has accepted his tawbah. Number 4, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد مات مؤمنا مستكمل الإيمان. Verily, the person who dies on the love of Ali Muhammad, he dies as a mu'min whose iman has reached to the level of perfection. Number 5, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد بشره ملك الموت بالجنة ثم منكر ونكير. Verily, the person who dies with the love of Ahlul Bayt, Malakul Maut. That's why the death of a mu'min will become not that, difficult. Malakul Maut will give him the good news of Jannah. And then that will be repeated by Munkir and Nakir, the two angels who come to ask questions in the grave. Number 6, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد يضف إلى الجنة كما تضف العروس إلى بيت زوجها. Verily, the person who dies with the love of Ahlul Bayt, he will be prepared to go to Jannah the way the bride is prepared to going for her wedding. Number 7, probably you don't want to become brides, huh? But this is in a symbolic sense. Salawat padne ek baar. The example here is of the ihtamam, the preparation done. For a mu'min going to Jannah will be just like the preparation which is done for the bride to get married. The groom are just very simple things. And so it's more about, the extra preparation which is required, which is being used here as an example. Number 7, ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد فتح له في قبره بابان إلى الجنة. Whoever dies with the love of Ahlul Bayt in his heart, 2 doors from Jannat will open towards him in the grave. ألا ومن مات على حب آل محمد جعل الله قبره مزار ملائكة الرحمة. Verily, though a person who dies with the love of Ahlul Bayt, Allah will turn his grave as a mazar, the visiting place for the angels of mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat on the Quran. Zamakhshari then continues, three more statements about the opposite. Ala wa man mata ala bughzi ali Muhammad. What will happen to somebody who dies with the hatred towards Ahlul Bayt? He quotes the Prophet as saying, Ala wa man mata ala bughdi ali Muhammad, Ja'a yawm al-qiyamah, maktubun bayna aynayh, aisun min rahmatillah. A person who dies with the hatred towards Ali Muhammad, on the day of Qiyamah he will come, while it will be written on his forehead that aisun min rahmatillah. He has lost hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ala wa man mata ala bughdi ali Muhammad mata kafiran. Somebody who dies with the bughz and hatred towards Ahlul Bayt, his maut and death is not that of Islam. Mata kafiran. Ala wa man mata ala bughdi ali Muhammad lam yashum ra'iyatul jannah. Verily, someone who has the hatred towards Ahlul Bayt, he will never be able to smell the fragrance of Jannah ever. Salawat. Another very famous mufassir of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah by the name of Imam Fakhruddin Razi is a very extensive tafsir known as Tafsir Kabir. The name really fits it. In the modern version that they have, this is a narration from volume number 27. And there he quotes this old statement from Zamakhshari. And then at the end, he makes his own comments about this ayat and this concept of the law for Ahlul Bayt. And he says, وَعَنَا أَقُولُ. He says, the term Ali Muhammad in these ahadith, and even this concept of the qurba in the ayat of Quran, he says it means those who are connected to Rasulullah. And he says if you look at the connection, who is more connected and closely linked to Rasulullah than his own family. لا شك أن فاطمة وعلي والحسن والحسين كان التعلق بينهم وبين رسول الله أشد التعلقات. The link between Fatima and Ali and Hassan and Hussein with Rasulullah is the strongest of link. وهذا كالمعلوم بالنقل المتواتر. And this is very well known. It is something which is hidden or people do not know. فَوَجَبَ أَنْ يَكُونَ هُمُ الْآلِ. And so Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein are the al who has been mentioned in this ayat and even this in ahadith of Rasulullah. Salawat. And then he goes on to say, people have tried to give different interpretation to the word Al Muhammad. They say even the ummah of Muhammad is Al Muhammad. And he says, but if you look at the word Al, what does it mean? If you say, Al means those who are related to him, then Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein are the first one. And if you say Al means those who follow him, even in the meaning of following, they are ahead than anyone else. So either meaning you use for Al, he says it goes for sabata anna ala jami' taqdirat umul al. Whatever meaning of Al you use, it refers to Ali Muhammad salawatullah alayhim ajma'een. And then he says there are three more reasons why it refers to Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein, this concept of loving them. One, he says, look at the ayat that we have discussed. And number two, he says, there is no doubt that the Prophet used to talk about Fatima and he would say, Fatimatu bad'atun minni يُضِينِي مَا يُضِيهَا. Fatima is part of me. And whatever hurts her, hurts me. وَثَبَتَ بِالنَّقْلِ الْمُتَوَاتِرِ عَنْ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أَنَّهُ كَانَ يُحِبُّ عَلِيًّا وَالْحَسَنَ وَالْحُسَيْنَ. And it's known without any doubt, unanimously, that the Prophet used to love Ali and Hassan and Hussein, and therefore it is proven that it is wajib for the Muslim Ummah to love Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein. Salawat. Then Imam Fakhr Razi brings in 4 ayat where he says, Allah is ordering us to follow the Rasul. And this is how we have to follow the Rasul, by loving his family. And the third, he says, why Al here is the Ali Muhammad. He says, إِنَّ الدُّعَى لِعَالِ مَنْصَبٌ عَظِيمٌ. Says the dua for Ali Muhammad is a great status given to them. And that has been made part of the tashahhud of the namaz. And that is the words, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. And he says this is applicable to them and no one else. And then this is where he comes to Imam Shafi'i, ends with the poetry of Imam Shafi'i, where he says to the traveler, Ya rakiban qif bil mahsabi min mina. He says, oh, the traveler who is going to Mecca for pilgrimage. When you go in Mina, Mina is the place, Arafat and Mina is the place where all the Hajis are together. Not necessarily in Mecca, but in Arafat and Mina, all the Hujjaj are together. So Imam Shafi'i, in a symbolic sense, is addressing this traveler. He says, oh, the traveler, the rider who is going to Mina, when you go there, stand at a higher place and announce to the whole assembly of the Hujjaj, in kana rafdan hubb ali Muhammadin. Before even I translate, you'll understand the meaning of Rafidi and Rafz. Rafidi is a derogative term used by some Sunnis against the Shias. They wouldn't call us Shia, they will call us Rafidi. And from Rafizi, this comes from the word Rafz. Imam Shafi'i, one of the founders of the 4 schools of the fiqh of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, he says to this traveler, he says, when you go to Mina, stand there, address the assembly of the Hujjaj, let them know on my behalf, in kana rafdan hubb ali Muhammadin, if loving Ahlul Bayt is the sign of having rafz, فَلْيَشْهَدُ السَّقَلَانِ إِنِّي رَافِضِيٌّ. Then let the assembly of the ins and jinn, humans and jinns, know that I am a Rafidi. Means I love the Ali Muhammad. Even if you use this derogatory term for somebody who loves the Ahlul Bayt, then I don't care, I will be a Rafizi in that sense. Salawat. And so this concept of, the love for the Ahlul Bayt, and an automatic reaction would be dislike for those who are, who humiliated them, who killed them, who tortured them, who hurt them. This is a very natural response. And this is what we talk about when we talk about al-hubb fillah wal-bughz fillah. This is done within the parameter of the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the ways by which we express our love for Ali Muhammad is this tradition of ziyarat, which is not a cultural phenomenon started by the people or the ulama or those who take the caravans. No. This is something which has been established by the Imams of Ahlul Bayt themselves. Even the wordings of the ziyarat that we recite when we go for ziyarat comes from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And this is one way of expressing our love for the Ahlul Bayt. And the ziyarat is not only, limited to the Masumeen, the 12 Imam, the Prophet and Bibi Fatima. No. It is extended to the Shuhada of Islam. It is extended to all those who are connected to Ali Muhammad. And it doesn't matter whether it was a man or a woman. I think we, especially in this 21st century, as a Shia community among the Muslims, we can take pride in saying that when we talk about those whom we respect and honor, those whom follow as our guides and role models, we do not limit that to the man. We go for the ziyarat of Zainab in Sham and also for the ziyarat of Hazrat Masuma in Qom. Nobody goes to Mashhad alone. When we go to Medina, we do not only go for the ziyarat of Rasulullah and the A'imma who are in Baqi. We also go for the ziyarat of Bibi Fatima al-Zahra. We go for the ziyarat of Fatima bint Asad. We go for the ziyarat of Umul Baneen. Because we look at those who are connected to Ali Muhammad. They came from both genders. And this is where one way of expressing that is, having these gatherings in the memory of the family of the Ahlul Bayt, whether they are male or be female. Salawat padhne ek baar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed our seventh Imam, Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, with many, many children. And among his children, two of them are considered to be the most important one. One, of course, is our eighth Imam. And the other is his sister, Masuma, who is buried in Qom. Both actually are from the same mother. And they were very close to one another. We did not only go for the ziyarat because Hazrat Masuma was a sister of Imam Raza alayhi salam. There were many other sisters that Imam had. There are many other women in Ali Muhammad, in the family, who are related in that way. But she has a special place in the history of Shias because she was not only the daughter of the Imam, brother of the Imam, she was a pious and a learned lady in her own right. There are incidents in her life where we are told once a group of Shias had gone to Medina. The Imam was not at home, he had gone somewhere else. And they waited, but Imam didn't come on that day. And they had a serious question. They still wrote it down and sent it to the house of the Imam. And they got the response back. And the response was written by Hazrat Masuma in the absence of her father. Later on, when this caravan was going, they happened to pass by the caravan of Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam. They met him and they said, we had this question and we sent it to your home, and this is the response we got from your daughter. And Imam looked at it and she said, may Allah bless her. For the sake of her father, she has written exactly what I would have written in her place. Means the knowledge that she had is something even a Masum Imam is, praising. I have talked about this issue, this phenomenon of ilm and knowledge among the women of the family of Ahlul Bayt. Previously in different gatherings, even in the Wednesday classes. Especially when you look at the hadith literature. It's very interesting to see, and that gives us a window into the life of the women in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt. We don't know much about them. But this is one way of understanding that when it comes to the process of ma'rifat and ilm, the women of the family of Ahlul Bayt were as active as their male counterparts. When we talk about hadith, one of the important things in hadith is the sanad. For example, we get a hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who says, I heard from my father, who said, I heard from the fourth Imam, who says, I heard from my father, and then it goes to Ali, and then it goes to Rasulullah. This is the chain of narrators. And it's by that chain of narrators that we get assurance about the statement. This is one way of looking at it. But it's amazing to see that we have in the books from us, as well as from the Sunni authors who are inclined towards the Ahlul Bayt. They are not the enemies of Ahlul Bayt. It's amazing to see that some of them have narrated ahadith of Rasulullah exclusively from the sanad of the women of Ahlul Bayt, all the way to Bibi Fatima to Rasulullah. And in that you will see the name of Hazrat Masuma as one of the, link in that chain. I have presented some other ahadith of this kind, but this was a different one, and it's related to this ahad, the hadith that we had from Zamakhshari, where he says that the Prophet said, "Ala man mata ala hubbi ali Muhammadin mata shahida." This hadith has also been quoted by the women of Ahlul Bayt, exclusively through their channel. Not a single male narrator is there. And the quotation that I have from a Shia source, who actually quotes it from a Sunni source. Bahraini, in his Awalim al-Ulum, actually quotes this narration from a Shafi'i alim, where he says, and now he narrates according to his silsila. He says, I heard from Fatima bint al-Husayn al-Radhawi. Al-Radhawi, this is, descendants of Imam Jawad from the 8th Imam. From Fatima bint al-Husayn al-Razawi, who heard from her aunt, Fatima bint Muhammad al-Razawi, who heard from her aunt, Fatima bint Ibrahim al-Razawi, who heard from Fatima bint Hassan al-Razawi, from Fatima bin Muhammad al-Musawi, from Fatima bint Abdullah al-Alawi, from Fatima bint Hassan al-Husayni, is one generation going back. From Fatima bint Abi Hashim al-Husayni, from Fatima bint Muhammad bin Ahmad bin Musa al-Mubarraqa, who heard from her aunt Fatima bint Ahmad bin Musa al-Mubarraqa, who heard from Fatima bint Musa al-Mubarraqa. Musa al-Mubarraqa is the son of the 9th Imam, and all these Razavi Sadat in the world, their line goes back to Musa al-Mubarraqa, who is buried in Qum. And from Fatima, her daughter, she quotes Fatima bint Imam Abil Hasan al-Riza alayhi salam. She is now quoting from her aunt, who is quoting from Fatima bint Musa al-Kazim, Hazrat Masuma Qum, who is quoting from her aunt, Fatima bint Ja'far al-Sadiq, who is quoting from Fatima bint Muhammad al-Baqir, who is quoting from Fatima bint Ali Zain al-Abidin, who is quoting from Fatima bint al-Husayn al-Shahid, from Zainab bint Ali, who is quoting from Fatima bint Rasulullah. قالت, Fatima said, قال Rasulullah, ألا من مات على حب آل محمد مات شهيدا. Salawat. 19 generations. And it's not confined to the immediate family of the Imams. It is going on. 19 generation of women from the family of Ahlul Bayt. It's amazing that all of them in this sanad, another thing very interesting is that all of them are Fatima, except one. All of them have been... All of those who quoted one another are Fatima except Zainab bint Ali. And so when you look at this, it shows to us that yes, what we know is the male side of the process of Ali Muhammad. And they are the foundation indeed. But do not think that the women were less educated. It seems they had their own circle of learning. That they are able to quote the hadith of Rasulullah without going through any Rabi from the male side. And this itself would give you a window into this understanding that when we talk about, knowledge and women, at least Shia Islam does not prevent women from seeking knowledge. One of the examples of Bughz fillah, we dislike the Taliban. Why? Among many things in the list why we don't like them is this process of them saying that women should not be educated. We saw what they did in Kabul, we saw when they were in power, and even now in Pakistan. Wherever they go, wherever they see girls' school, they have this allergy, as if it seems, They cannot tolerate that. And this is where we see two different paths. So if we say we don't like them, it's not because we don't like their attire or their turban. No, we don't like their character. We don't like this hatred that they have towards women and girls seeking knowledge. It seems they are actually the forces of darkness who are afraid whenever the light of knowledge is shone upon them. Whereas when we look at the example of Ali Muhammad, the community of the Shias, this is where we see that when it comes to the knowledge, we have this famous hadith where the Prophet says, Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha. Salawat pradhan ek baar. Hazrat Masuma Qum and her shrine in Qum is not just an issue that she was an alima, a very pious lady with taqwa and piety. No. She is known by our ulama to be waliyatullah. We use this term for those who are actually have, Allah has favored them in a special way. They are not Nabi or Rasul or Imam. They are not Masum. But they have been gifted with something which has not been given to others. Great ulama, if you see those who have lived and died in Qum, even people like Mullah Sadra, although more influenced more by his own teachings of philosophy, he himself used to say, whenever I would be in difficulty in resolving a problem that I would have, I would seek tawassul of Hazrat Fatima Masuma in Qum. I would specially make a visit to the haram of Hazrat Masuma. You look at Allama Tabatabai. Even the name of our Bahjat is very famous these days. Everybody talks about him. Look at the way he himself humbles himself when he goes for the ziyarat of Hazrat Masuma. Ayatul Marashi, known to be the first person for years and years who would enter the haram of Hazrat Masuma before Fajr. There is one person I know, he was saying that I once wanted to see if I can be the first one to reach to the haram of Hazrat Masuma when the doors are open in the morning. I don't know now it's open 24 hours or not, but those days we are talking about before the revolution. He says, one day I decided I'll be the first one. He says, I went there and the gate was closed. And I saw there was somebody sleeping, horizontally by the door. Right there. So when it opens, he will be there to go in. And he said that person has covered himself with his abba. So I didn't know. I thought maybe some musafir has come late and he's sleeping here. He says when the khadim opened the door, I realized it was our Marashi who was actually sleeping there at that time. Maybe he had come earlier and, he decided to just stay there. And he says, so nobody could actually, go into the haram before Ayatul Marashi. And it is his father actually who had seen this dream, the father of Ayatul Marashi, where he did the special amal. Because one of the tragedies of Al-Bayt is that we are not sure where is the grave of Hazrat Fatima Zahra salawatullah alayha. And he had done this special amal so that he can know from the Imam of the time that where is the grave of Fatima to Zahra, so I can go and do ziyarat. And this is where he is told, in the state of a vision, that why don't you go for the ziyarat of the Karima? And he says, what do you mean by Karima? And when he insisted that who is Karima, I don't know. Karima is somebody who is very generous and kind, from Karim. And this is where he is told in reply, why instead of what you are looking for, why don't you go for the ziyarat of Karima, who is buried in Qum? And this is where she gets now this name, Karime Ali Muhammad. And because it was said to that the father of Ayatul Marashi, that this is a secret which will be disclosed. As far as the location of Sayyidah Fatima's grave is concerned, this will be disclosed only when the Imam of the time comes. Salawat. Just two narrations before I end the majlis. One is before her birth, about the importance of visiting the shrine of Hazrat Masuma. And this is from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. Where he says, Inna lillahi haraman wa huwa Makkah. Allah has one sanctuary, and that is in Makkah. Wa inna lil-Rasul haraman wa huwa al-Madinah. Rasul has a sanctuary, and that is Medina. Wa inna li-Amir al-Mu'minin haraman wa huwa al-Kufa. The sanctuary of Amir al-Mu'minin is Kufa. Wa inna lana, and we the Ahlul Bayt in general, haraman, we have a sanctuary, wa huwa baladatu Qum, and that is the city of Qum. And then he says, satudfan fiha imra'atan min awladi, and in future a lady from my descendants will be buried in that city, tusamma Fatima, whose name would be Fatima. فَمَنْ زَارَهَا وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Whoever goes for her ziyarat, Jannat will be wajib on that person. Now, of course, don't take that as a blank check that you don't have to worry about anything else. That is clarified by the brother of Hazrat Masuma. And this is where we see that sometimes the common understanding is something else, that the wafat of Hazrat Masuma happened before the shahadat of Imam Raza alayhi salam. Because this is after the incident that one of the prominent members of Qum, the Shias of Qum, had gone to see the 8th Imam. He visited him, probably in Marv or in Tus. And that's where Imam said to him, Ya Sa'ad, innakum lana qabrun. O Sa'ad, you have a grave which belongs to us. And he says, yes. Ja'altu fida qabr Fatima bint Musa. You're referring to your own sister's grave. And Imam says, yes. Man zaraha arifan bihaqqiha falahul jannah. Whoever does the ziyarat of Fatima bint Musa, arifan bihaqqiha, with ma'arifat, with commitment to her mazhab and deen, then Jannat would be for him. And so this is where we see that when it comes to the importance that we give to the family of Ahlul Bayt, this is based on the Quran and Hadith, and it's not limited to only the Ma'sumeen. It is extended to other members of the Ahlul Bayt who maintain that higher level of righteousness, taqwa, and knowledge like Hazrat Masuma Qum, salawatullah alayha, salawat. Hazrat Masuma के वफात के सिलसिले में उतनी तफसीलात तो नहीं मिलती हैं. कुछ बातें हैं लेकिन कुछ मुवस्सक़ हैं, कुछ नहीं हैं. लेकिन इतनी बात यकीनी है तारीख़ में कि जनाब मासूमा इमाम रज़ा अलैहिस्सलाम से جو محبت کرتی تھی، بھائی بہن کی حیثیت سے بہت قریب تھے. 1 سال گزر چکا تھا، بہن سے یہ جدائی برداشت نہیں ہوئی، لہٰذا امام آلریڈی مرو پہنچ چکے تھے، اور 1 سال کے بعد جناب معصومہ قم نے جو ہے ارادہ کیا کہ وہ مدینہ سے اس سفر کو جاری کرے. اس زمانے کے حالات کو دیکھتے ہوئے آپ سمجھ سکتے ہیں کہ یہ سفر کوئی آسان سفر نہیں تھا. قم سے پہلے ایک جگہ ہے، ایک شہر ہے جس کا نام ہے ساوا. وہاں وہ جب پہنچی ہیں تو وہاں پر جناب معصومہ کی طبیعت جو ہے خراب ہو جاتی ہے. جب انہیں احساس ہوا کہ ہماری طبیعت جو ہے سنبھل نہیں رہی ہے تو وہ پوچھتی ہیں صحابہ والوں سے کہ قم یہاں سے کتنا دور ہے. اس لیے کہ قم جو ہے خاندان اہل بیت میں مشہور تھا کہ روز اول سے ایران کا اکثر علاقہ جو ہے وہ سنی نشین علاقہ تھا، لیکن شہر قم وہ شہر ہے کہ روز اول سے یہ زوراسٹرین سے یہ شیعہ ہوئے ہیں، اور ان کے شیعہ ہونے میں کوفہ کے ایک شیعہ خاندان کا اثر رہا ہے جن کو سعد الاشعری کہتے ہیں. اشعری خاندان یہ لوگ آ کے سیٹل ہوئے تھے قم میں. ان کے انفلوئنس کی وجہ سے شیعہ مذہب وہاں پھیلا ہے. تو قم جو ہے روز اول سے شیعہ شہر ہے، کبھی بھی وہ سنی انفلوئنس میں نہیں رہا ہے. اور اسی غالباً اہمیت کے لحاظ سے جناب معصومہ کے دل میں یہ تمنا تھی کہ اگر ہماری طبیعت ٹھیک نہیں ہے اور خدا نخواستہ میں کچھ ہو جاتا ہے تو بہتر ہے کہ ہم اپنے کو قم پہنچائیں. جب بتایا گیا کہ بہت دور نہیں ہے تو پھر تیاری ہوئی سفر کی تاکہ جناب معصومہ جو ہیں قم پہنچے. قم والوں کو خبر کی بتائی گئی. سعد الاشعری جو وہاں کے بزرگ تھے یہ سب جو ہے شہر کے باہر آ جاتے ہیں استقبال کے لیے. جناب معصومہ کا شان کے ساتھ استقبال ہوا ہے، اور سعد اشعری کے گھر ہی بیوی کا قیام ہوتا ہے. تیمارداری جتنی ہو سکتی تھی انہوں نے کی ہے، لیکن وہ وقت آتا ہے کہ جناب معصومہ اس دنیا میں نہیں رہ سکی. وفات کا وقت آتا ہے. سعد اشعری نے، ان کے گھر والوں خواتین نے غسل و کفن کا سلسلہ کیا. پھر وہ جنازہ اٹھا ہے عزت و شان کے ساتھ. سعد اشعری کا جو ایک باغ تھا نہر کے قریب، وہاں جا کے وہ دفن کرتے ہیں. لیکن چونکہ یہ ایک آل محمد کی خاتون تھی، یہ امام کی بیٹی تھی، امام کی بہن تھی، امام کی پوتی تھی، لہذا مرد جنازے کے لیے آئے تھے. لیکن جب تدفین کی بات ہوئی کسی کی ہمت نہ ہوئی کہ اندر جائے. قبر بھی نہیں تھی بلکہ وہ ایک بیزمنٹ تہخانہ تھا جس میں اس تابوت کو رکھا گیا تھا اور بند کر دیا گیا تھا. لیکن یہ پریشان تھے کہ یہاں آخری رسومات کس طرح سے ادا ہوں. ایک روایت کے مطابق 2 گھوڑے سوار اس وقت پہنچتے ہیں جن کے چہرے پر نقاب تھا. یہ دونوں اترتے ہیں اور جا کے سب کو ہٹاتے ہیں اور کہتے ہیں کہ ہم اپنی بیوی کو یہاں پر ہم دفن کریں گے. جناب معصومہ کو وہاں دفن کیا گیا اور وہ عمارت بنی اور زیارت گاہ بنی. امام جواد کی بیٹی نے بعد میں اپنے زمانے میں فاطمہ بنت امام محمد تقی نے اس بارگاہ پر گنبد کی تعمیر کروائی، اور اس طرح سے جناب معصومہ کی وہاں تدفین ہوئی ہے. جہاں اس بھائی اور بہن کی محبت کی بات آتی ہے ہمیں ایک اور بہن بھی یاد آتی ہے. معصومہ جو ہیں اپنے بھائی کی اس جدائی کو برداشت نہ کر سکی. مرو جانا چاہ رہی تھی تاکہ امام رضا سے ملاقات ہو سکے، لیکن زینب نے تو حسین کو چھوڑا بھی نہیں. اتنی قربت تھی کہ جب حسین مدینہ سے روانہ ہوتے ہیں مکہ کے لیے تب زینب ساتھ ساتھ جاتی ہیں. جناب عبداللہ اور اون محمد ساتھ نہیں تھے. بعد میں جب مکہ سے روانہ ہونے لگی تب عبداللہ آتے ہیں اور اون محمد کو اپنی نیابت میں حسین کے حوالے کرتے ہیں. عزاداران حسین یہ وہ بہن ہے جو ساتھ ساتھ رہی، کربلا میں بھی ساتھ رہی، عاشور کے دن بھی ساتھ رہی. جناب معصومہ نے اپنے بھائی کے اس زہر کے بعد جو تکلیف تھی غریب الوطن کو وہ انہوں نے دیکھا نہیں ہے، لیکن ہائے زینب نے اتنے مصائب اپنے زندگی میں دیکھے تھے۔ عاشور کے دن جب حسین آئے ہیں آخری الوداع کے لیے، اور جب یقینی ہو گیا کہ اب حسین واپس لوٹ کے نہیں آئیں گے، جناب زینب نے رونا شروع کیا اور ایک جملہ کہتی ہیں، عجیب و غریب جملہ تھا، کہتی ہیں بھائی آپ کے جانے سے آج وہ دن بن لگتا ہے جیسے بابا نانا کی وفات ہو گئی ہو، آج وہ دن لگتا ہے جیسے ماں کی وفات ہو گئی ہو، آج وہ دن لگتا ہے جیسے بابا کی وفات ہو گئی ہو، آج وہ دن لگتا ہے جیسے بھائی کی وفات ہوئی ہے۔ زینب نے اس لیے یہ کہا تھا کہ جب نانا کی وفات ہوئی تھی ماں فاطمہ موجود تھی تسلی دینے کے لیے، جب ماں رخصت ہو گئی بابا علی موجود تھے تسلی دینے کے لیے زینب کو، جب بابا کی شہادت واقع ہوئی ہے حسن جیسے بھائی موجود تھے تسلی دینے کے لیے، جب حسن کی شہادت واقع ہوئی ہے زینب نے جو منظر اس تشت پہ دیکھا تھا، حسین وہاں تسلی دینے کی موجود تھے، لیکن آج وہ تسلی دینے والا آخری فرد پنجتن کا جا رہا ہے۔ اس لیے زینب کے لیے وہ تمام مصائب جو ہے ایک ساتھ عاشور کے دن جمع ہو جاتے ہیں۔ آج زینب کو خود اپنے کو بھی سنبھالنا ہوگا، زین العابدین کو بھی سنبھالنا ہوگا، اور اہل حرم اور بچیوں کو بھی سنبھالنا ہوگا۔ زینب نے اس طرح سے سنبھالا ہے، کوفہ میں بھی عباس جناب زین العابدین کو بچانا، اور شام کے دربار میں بھی حسین کے پیغام کو پہنچایا ہے۔ اپنے غم کو بھول جاتی ہے، ہاں مدینہ پہنچنے کے بعد جب اپنے گھر کے اندر جاتی ہے تب جو یادگاریں نظر آئیں آل اون محمد کی، تب زینب نے کہا ہے اے میرے بیٹے تم قربان ہو گئے میرے بھائی پر، میرا غم بھی وقف ہے میرے بھائی پر۔ ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون۔ خداوند اس قلب بات قبول فرما، ہمارے گناہوں کو بخش دے، ہماری توفیقات میں اضافہ فرما۔ خداوند جہاں جہاں مومنین پریشان حال ہیں ان کو اپنے حفظ امان میں رکھ، خصوصاً جو کینیڈا کا قافلہ عراق سے واپسی میں کائرو رکا تھا اور وہاں کی اتھارٹیز نے انہیں شہر میں جانے کی اجازت نہیں دی ہے، خداوند ان کو اپنے حفظ امان میں رکھ اور ان کو سلامتی کے ساتھ اپنے وطن پہنچا۔ خداوند جہاں جہاں شیعان علی ہیں جو تکفیری سلفیوں کے شکار بنے ہیں، خداوند ان کو دشمنان اہل بیت کے شر سے محفوظ رکھ، امام کے ظہور میں تعجل فرما۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔